The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestone courtyard of Windsor Castle as Marcus Thompson adjusted his crisp red uniform for the 100th time. At 22, he was the youngest member of the Queen's Guard to be stationed at the prestigious royal residence, a fact that his fellow guards never let him forget. His slight frame and quiet demeanor made him an easy target for their relentless teasing. "Look who's polishing his boots again," sneered Sergeant Davies, a burly man with 15 years of service under his belt. "Trying to impress the tourists, are we, Thompson?" The other guards chuckled as they watched Marcus meticulously clean his ceremonial rifle. The same weapon they all carried, but rarely used for anything more than ceremonial purposes. Marcus had grown up in a small village in Yorkshire, where his grandfather had taught him to shoot rabbits and clay pigeons behind their modest cottage. What started as a way to help put food on the table during tough times had evolved into an extraordinary natural talent. By the age of 16, Marcus could hit targets that seasoned hunters missed. But he kept this skill to himself, knowing that bragging would only invite more ridicule. The recruitment process for the Queen's Guard had been grueling, with physical fitness tests, background checks, and endless drills. Marcus had excelled in every area except one that seemed to matter most to his peers: fitting in with their rough, boisterous culture. While they spent their off-duty hours drinking at the local pub and trading war stories, Marcus preferred to read military history books or practice his marksmanship at the base's shooting range during the quietest hours of the morning. "Thompson's at it again," muttered Corporal Jenkins as he watched Marcus clean his rifle with the precision of a craftsman. "Probably thinks that thing shoots rose petals instead of bullets." The comment drew another round of laughter from the group, but Marcus remained focused on his task. Running the cleaning cloth along the barrel with practiced movements his grandfather had taught him years ago. The truth was that Marcus knew his weapon better than any of them realized. During his private practice sessions, he had discovered that this particular rifle had a slight deviation that required a minute adjustment in aim. While the other guards treated their weapons as mere props for the tourists who gathered daily to watch the changing of the guard, Marcus understood that even a ceremonial rifle should be maintained and understood as if lives depended on it. Captain Richards, the commanding officer, had noticed Marcus's dedication but interpreted it differently than the other guards. Where they saw obsessive behavior, the captain saw potential. He had been watching the young guard's performance during drills and noted his exceptional attention to detail and unwavering focus under pressure. However, even Captain Richards had no idea of the true extent of Marcus's abilities with a firearm. The daily routine at Windsor Castle was predictable and often monotonous. Tourists would arrive in waves, cameras clicking as they tried to capture the perfect shot of the stoic guards in their iconic red tunics and tall black hats. Marcus had learned to remain perfectly still during these moments, even when children tried to make him laugh or when adults asked him inappropriate questions. His ability to maintain composure under scrutiny was remarkable, though his fellow guards attributed this to social awkwardness rather than professional discipline. During one particularly busy afternoon, Marcus overheard a group of visiting dignitaries discussing security concerns with Captain Richards. There had been reports of suspicious activity in the surrounding area, and intelligence suggested that the castle might be under surveillance by individuals with unknown intentions. The conversation made Marcus more alert than usual, his trained eyes scanning the crowds with heightened awareness. That evening, as the guards gathered for their briefing, Sergeant Davies couldn't resist another jab at Marcus. "If we ever need someone to pose for a statue, we know who to call," he said, causing the others to snicker. "Thompson here could probably stand still for a week without moving a muscle." Marcus said nothing, but he noticed Captain Richards watching the interaction with a slight frown. The ribbing continued as they discussed the next day's schedule. There would be a special ceremony to honor visiting foreign ministers, which meant increased security and more precise execution of their duties. Marcus felt a flutter of nervous excitement, knowing that such events always carried an element of unpredictability. He spent extra time that night preparing his uniform and equipment, unaware that the following day would change everything. As he lay in his narrow bunk in the guards' quarters, Marcus could hear the others still joking about his supposed incompetence. They had no idea that the quiet young man they mocked had once shot a perfect score in a county-wide marksmanship competition or that he had been personally recommended for the guard by a retired colonel who had witnessed his extraordinary skills during a recruitment demonstration. The mockery hurt more than Marcus cared to admit, but he had learned to channel that pain into determination. His grandfather had always told him that true strength came not from boasting about one's abilities, but from knowing when and how to use them. Tomorrow would be just another day of standing at attention and enduring the teasing of his colleagues, or so Marcus thought as he drifted off to sleep. Little did anyone know that within 24 hours, the same guards who ridiculed Marcus for his quiet intensity and meticulous preparation would witness a display of skill that would leave them speechless and transform their understanding of the young man they had so carelessly underestimated. The stage was set for a revelation that would echo through the halls of Windsor Castle for years to come. The morning of the ceremonial event dawned crisp and clear, with autumn leaves scattered across the castle grounds like nature's confetti. Marcus arrived at the armory 30 minutes before the scheduled briefing, a habit that had become second nature to him. As he checked his equipment one final time, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. A small piece of metal was lodged in the firing mechanism of Sergeant Davies's rifle. It was barely visible, but Marcus's trained eye caught the anomaly immediately. The metal fragment would likely cause a misfire if the weapon were ever discharged, potentially injuring Davies or anyone nearby. Without hesitation, Marcus carefully extracted the foreign object and cleaned the mechanism, though he knew Davies would probably assume it was another example of his obsessive behavior. The briefing room buzzed with nervous energy as Captain Richards outlined the day's security protocol. 3 foreign ministers would be arriving for a diplomatic ceremony, accompanied by their own security details and a contingent of international media. The Queen herself would be making a brief appearance, raising the stakes for everyone involved. Marcus listened intently as the captain assigned positions, noting that he would be stationed at the main entrance alongside Davies and 2 other guards. "Remember, gentlemen," Captain Richards emphasized, his voice carrying the weight of years of experience. "We represent not just ourselves, but our nation today. Every movement, every gesture, every decision reflects on the crown. I expect nothing less than perfection." His eyes swept across the room, lingering for a moment on Marcus before moving on. As they prepared to take their positions, Sergeant Davies discovered the work Marcus had done on his rifle. "What did you do to my weapon, Thompson?" he demanded, his voice loud enough to draw attention from the other guards. Marcus quietly explained about the metal fragment, but Davies waved him off dismissively. "I don't need some rookie messing with my equipment. Keep your hands to yourself next time." The ceremony began with military precision, each guard moving to their assigned position as the first of the diplomatic vehicles approached the castle gates. Marcus took his place at the main entrance, his posture perfect, and his attention divided between the arriving guests and the growing crowd of spectators. The international media had set up their cameras at designated positions, capturing every moment of the formal proceedings. Foreign Minister Chen Wei of China was the first to arrive, stepping from his armored limousine with the practiced grace of a seasoned diplomat. His security detail spread out in a protective formation, their eyes constantly scanning for potential threats. Marcus noticed their professional demeanor and felt a spark of professional admiration for their obvious competence. The second arrival was Minister Klaus Müller from Germany, a tall man with silver hair, who moved with the confident stride of someone accustomed to being in the public eye. His security team was equally impressive, and Marcus observed their positioning with the analytical mind his grandfather had helped him develop during countless hunting expeditions. As the third and final minister prepared to arrive, Marcus noticed something that made his pulse quicken. A figure in the crowd near the media area was behaving strangely, moving against the natural flow of spectators and keeping one hand concealed beneath a dark jacket. The person's body language was tense and purposeful, completely different from the relaxed curiosity displayed by the other onlookers. Marcus tried to catch Captain Richards' attention, but the officer was focused on coordinating with the arriving security details. The suspicious individual continued to move closer to the ceremony area, and Marcus realized with growing alarm that the person was positioning themselves for a clear line of sight to where the ministers would be gathering. The ceremony continued as planned, with the Queen arriving in her distinctive Bentley to greet the visiting dignitaries. The crowd pressed forward slightly, eager to catch a glimpse of the monarch, providing perfect cover for the suspicious figure who was now less than 50 meters from the royal party. Marcus felt sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool autumn air. Everything happened in slow motion, yet faster than thought itself. The suspicious figure's concealed hand emerged, revealing the unmistakable silhouette of a weapon aimed directly at the gathering of world leaders. Marcus saw the intent in the person's posture, the slight adjustment of stance that preceded action, and realized that in seconds, tragedy would unfold before the eyes of the world. Training took over where conscious thought failed. Marcus's body moved with the fluid precision of thousands of hours of practice, his ceremonial rifle rising to his shoulder in one smooth motion. The distance was significant, the target partially obscured by moving civilians, and the margin for error was non-existent. Any shot would have to be perfect, threading between innocent bystanders to neutralize the threat without causing collateral damage. Time seemed suspended as Marcus aligned his sights, his breathing steady despite the chaos erupting around him as other security personnel began to notice the threat. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. "When it matters most, trust your instincts and let your training guide you." The rifle felt like an extension of his body, as familiar as his own heartbeat. The crack of the rifle shot echoed across the castle courtyard like thunder, causing spectators to freeze in confusion and security teams to spring into action. Marcus watched as his bullet found its mark with surgical precision, striking the would-be assassin's weapon and sending it spinning from their grasp without causing serious injury to the individual. In the immediate aftermath, chaos reigned. Security personnel swarmed the disarmed individual. Spectators screamed and scattered, and the royal party was quickly ushered to safety. The international media, initially confused by the sudden commotion, began to piece together what had happened as their cameras captured the dramatic scene. Sergeant Davies stared at Marcus in complete shock, his mouth hanging open as he processed what he had just witnessed. The same young guard he had been mocking for months had just executed one of the most difficult shots imaginable under extreme pressure, preventing what could have been an international catastrophe. Captain Richards rushed to Marcus's position, his expression a mixture of relief and amazement. "Exceptional work, Thompson," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "That shot. I've never seen anything like it." The other guards gathered around, their earlier mockery replaced by stunned silence and growing respect. As the immediate crisis passed and order was restored, Marcus remained at his post, his rifle back in ceremonial position, as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. The quiet young man they had dismissed as incompetent had just demonstrated skills that none of them could match, saving lives and preserving international relations with a single, perfect shot. The investigation that followed the incident moved with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. Detective Chief Inspector Sarah Morrison from Scotland Yard's Counter-Terrorism Command arrived within an hour, her team quickly establishing a perimeter around the captured individual. Marcus found himself at the center of a whirlwind of interviews, debriefings, and forensic examinations as authorities worked to understand exactly what had transpired. The would-be assassin, identified as Viktor Petrov, a disgruntled former military contractor with grievances against several European governments, had somehow obtained detailed security information about the ceremony. His plan had been meticulously crafted, exploiting what he believed were gaps in the protection protocols. He had not anticipated encountering a guard with Marcus's extraordinary abilities. "The precision of that shot is remarkable," DCI Morrison told Captain Richards as they reviewed security footage from multiple angles. "Threading a bullet between civilians to disarm a target at that distance, under those conditions, it's the kind of skill we see maybe once in a decade, if that." The video evidence showed clearly how Marcus had prevented a potential international incident that could have had devastating diplomatic consequences. Word of the event spread quickly through the castle's corridors and beyond. The other guards who had spent months ridiculing Marcus found themselves grappling with a complete reversal of their understanding. Corporal Jenkins, who had been particularly vocal in his criticism, approached Marcus during a quiet moment in the evening. "Thompson," Jenkins began, his usual swagger replaced by genuine humility, "I owe you an apology. We all do. I had no idea." He struggled to find the words, clearly uncomfortable with admitting he had been so wrong about his colleague. Marcus listened without interruption, his expression calm but not unkind. "We all have things we're good at," he replied simply. "I just happened to be good at something that mattered today." His response was characteristic of his nature, showing no bitterness despite months of ridicule. The media coverage was extensive and largely positive, though Marcus's identity was protected for security reasons. International news outlets reported on the heroic, quick thinking of Royal Guard personnel that had prevented a potential tragedy at Windsor Castle. The story captured public imagination, with many praising the professionalism and skill of the Queen's Guard. Behind the scenes, however, Marcus found himself dealing with a tension he neither sought nor particularly enjoyed. Senior military officials requested meetings to discuss his background and training. Intelligence services wanted to understand how he had developed such exceptional marksmanship skills. The quiet life he preferred was suddenly filled with briefings, assessments, and conversations about his future. Captain Richards had spent considerable time reviewing Marcus's personnel file and was astounded by what he discovered. The young guard's recruitment scores were exceptional across the board, but somehow his remarkable shooting abilities had been noted only briefly in his training records. Phone calls to his instructors revealed a pattern of understatement and modesty that had obscured his true capabilities. "Why didn't you ever mention your shooting skills?" Captain Richards asked during a private meeting in his office. The question had been bothering him since the incident, as he realized how much talent had been hidden in plain sight. Marcus considered the question carefully before responding. "My grandfather always taught me that actions speak louder than words," he explained. "He said that people who constantly talk about what they can do usually can't actually do it when it matters. I suppose I took that lesson to heart." The conversation revealed much about Marcus's character and upbringing. His grandfather, a veteran of the Korean War, had instilled values of humility, dedication, and service without seeking recognition. The shooting skills had been developed not for glory or competition, but as practical abilities that might someday prove useful. Sergeant Davies, who had been the most vocal in his criticism of Marcus, struggled more than the others with the revelation. During a mess hall conversation, he finally approached the subject directly. "I feel like a complete fool," he admitted to Marcus. "All this time, I thought you were just some soft kid who didn't belong here." The exchange that followed was illuminating for both men. Marcus explained that he had never sought to prove himself through confrontation or boasting. Preferring to let his work speak for itself, Davies began to understand that what he had interpreted as weakness or incompetence was actually a different kind of strength, rooted in confidence and self-discipline. The international diplomatic community also took notice of the incident. Foreign Minister Chen Wei personally requested to meet with the guard who had prevented the attack, expressing his gratitude through official diplomatic channels. The gesture was unprecedented and highlighted the significance of Marcus's actions in preventing what could have been a catastrophic international incident. News of Marcus's skills reached beyond the immediate circles of those involved. Military marksmanship instructors from various branches of service began requesting information about his training methods and natural abilities. Some suggested that he should be transferred to specialized units where his talents could be more fully utilized. However, Marcus surprised everyone by expressing his preference to remain with the Queen's Guard. When asked why he wouldn't want to pursue opportunities that might offer more recognition or advancement, his answer was simple and revealing. "This is where I belong," he said. "This is where I can do the most good." The transformation in how his colleagues treated him was complete but not superficial. Rather than replacing mockery with awe, they began to see him as a complete person for the first time. They discovered his dry sense of humor, his encyclopedic knowledge of military history, and his willingness to help with everything from equipment maintenance to personal problems. Corporal Jenkins later reflected on the change in an interview with investigators. "We thought we knew him," he said, "but we had only seen what we expected to see." Thompson showed us that judging people by appearances or first impressions can be dangerous, especially when those people have depths we never bothered to explore. The incident had lasting effects that extended far beyond the immediate participants. Security protocols were reviewed and updated based on lessons learned from how Marcus had identified and neutralized the threat. His quick thinking and exceptional skills had not only prevented a tragedy, but had also provided valuable insights into improving protection procedures for future events. As the dust settled from the initial excitement, Marcus returned to his regular duties with characteristic humility. But the dynamic within the guard unit had fundamentally changed, built now on genuine respect rather than superficial judgments based on appearance or social skills. 6 months after the incident, the ripple effects of Marcus's actions continued to reshape not only his immediate environment, but also military training protocols across the Commonwealth. A special commission had been established to study the event and its implications, leading to significant changes in how the Queen's Guard and other ceremonial units approached their duties. The commission's findings were eye-opening for military leadership at all levels. They discovered that the traditional focus on ceremonial perfection had sometimes overshadowed practical security considerations. Marcus's combination of ceremonial precision and tactical effectiveness became a model for a new training approach that balanced both aspects more effectively. Marcus found himself reluctantly thrust into a teaching role, something he had never sought but couldn't avoid given the circumstances. Young recruits and experienced guards alike sought his guidance, not just on marksmanship but on the mental discipline and situational awareness that had made his life-saving shot possible. His natural inclination toward privacy made these interactions challenging, but his sense of duty compelled him to share his knowledge. During one training session, a recruit asked him about the moment when he decided to take the shot. Marcus paused, considering how to explain the complex calculation of risk, trajectory, and timing that had occurred in split seconds. "You don't really decide," he finally said. "You prepare for years. And then, when the moment comes, your preparation decides for you." The transformation in his relationship with his original tormentors had evolved into something deeper than mere respect. Sergeant Davies had become one of his closest allies, often defending Marcus against newer guards who might be tempted to challenge or test the quiet young man who had become something of a legend within the unit. "The thing about Thompson," Davies would tell newcomers, "is that he never needed to prove anything to us. We needed to prove we were worth his time and respect." The reversal was complete and genuine, born from a hard-learned understanding of the difference between appearance and substance. Captain Richards had been promoted following the incident, partly due to his unit's exemplary performance under pressure. But he made sure Marcus received appropriate recognition for his role. The young guard was awarded the Queen's Commendation for brave conduct, though the ceremony was kept private for security reasons. More importantly to Marcus, he was given increased responsibilities that matched his demonstrated capabilities. The international attention had not diminished entirely. Several allied nations had requested consultations with Marcus regarding their own ceremonial guard training programs. These requests created diplomatic opportunities while also validating the effectiveness of British military training methods. Marcus participated reluctantly but professionally, understanding that his actions had implications beyond personal recognition. Foreign Minister Chen Wei had maintained correspondence with Marcus through official channels, occasionally sharing updates on how the prevented attack had affected his own security arrangements and diplomatic activities. The minister's gratitude was genuine and lasting, expressed through both formal diplomatic notes and personal messages that revealed the human impact of Marcus's split-second decision. The psychological evaluation that was standard following such incidents had revealed interesting aspects of Marcus's character and background. The military psychologist noted his unusual ability to remain calm under extreme pressure, attributing it to both natural temperament and the methodical training he had received from his grandfather. The report recommended that Marcus be considered for specialized assignments that could better utilize his unique combination of skills. However, when offered opportunities to transfer to elite units or special forces, Marcus consistently declined. His reasoning was both simple and profound. He believed his duty was to remain where he was needed most, not where he might gain the most recognition. This decision surprised many but confirmed the assessment of his character that had emerged since the incident. The media interest had evolved from sensational coverage to more thoughtful examination of the broader implications. Military analysts and security experts used the incident as a case study in effective threat response, while social commentators explored themes of hidden talent and the danger of superficial judgments. Marcus avoided all media contact, preferring to let his actions speak without elaboration. Within the castle, Marcus had noticed subtle but significant changes in how all the staff interacted with each other. The incident had served as a reminder that everyone, regardless of their apparent role or background, might possess capabilities that could prove crucial in unexpected circumstances. Kitchen staff, maintenance workers, and administrative personnel all seemed more aware of their potential contributions to overall security. The technical aspects of Marcus's shot had been analyzed extensively by ballistics experts and military marksmen. The combination of distance, moving targets, civilian proximity, and time pressure made it a nearly impossible shot by conventional standards. The experts' reports consistently concluded that only exceptional skill combined with perfect mental preparation could have achieved such results under those conditions. Training protocols had been updated across multiple military units based on lessons learned from the incident. The new approach emphasized developing both the technical skills and mental resilience that Marcus had demonstrated. Mock scenarios were created to help guards practice maintaining ceremonial composure while remaining tactically alert for genuine threats. Marcus's grandfather, now in his 80s, had been quietly informed about his grandson's heroic actions through discreet military channels. The old man's response, relayed back to Marcus, was characteristically understated. "Told you those rabbits weren't going to shoot themselves." The comment brought one of Marcus's rare smiles and reminded him of the simple origins of his extraordinary abilities. The bond between Marcus and his fellow guards had strengthened through shared understanding of their collective responsibility. They had learned that their ceremonial duties and security responsibilities were not separate functions but interconnected aspects of their service. Marcus's example had shown them that excellence in one area could enhance performance in the other. As the first anniversary of the incident approached, preparations began for a private ceremony to commemorate the event and honor those who had served with distinction. Marcus had mixed feelings about the recognition, preferring to focus on current duties rather than past achievements, but he understood the importance of acknowledging the lessons learned and the progress made. The young man who had once been mocked for his quiet intensity and meticulous preparation had become a symbol of hidden potential and professional excellence. His story had spread throughout military circles as an example of how proper training, combined with natural talent and strong character, could emerge at crucial moments to make the difference between tragedy and triumph. 2 years had passed since the incident that transformed Marcus Thompson from an object of ridicule into a respected leader within the Queen's Guard. The young man who had once endured daily mockery now found himself serving as a mentor and instructor, shaping the next generation of guards who would protect the crown and serve the nation. The anniversary commemoration had become an annual event, though Marcus insisted it remain a private affair focused on professional development rather than personal recognition. Each year, new recruits would learn about the incident as part of their training, understanding it not as a single moment of heroism, but as an example of how proper preparation and unwavering dedication could prove crucial when least expected. Marcus's role had evolved naturally into that of a senior instructor, specializing in tactical awareness and marksmanship. His teaching methods were unconventional, emphasizing patience, observation, and mental discipline over flashy demonstrations or competitive scoring. Students learned not just how to shoot accurately, but how to think clearly under pressure and make split-second decisions that could save lives. "The weapon is just a tool," Marcus would tell his students, echoing lessons learned from his grandfather years earlier. "The real weapon is your mind, your training, and your commitment to protecting others. Everything else is just equipment." These sessions often took place in the early morning hours when the castle was quiet, allowing for focused instruction without the distractions of daily operations. Sergeant Davies, now promoted to staff sergeant, had become Marcus's closest colleague and friend. Their relationship represented one of the most significant personal transformations to emerge from the incident. Davies often reflected on how his initial judgment of Marcus had been not just wrong, but dangerously superficial. "I learned more about leadership from Thompson in 6 months than I had in 15 years of service," Davies would tell new recruits during orientation sessions. Real strength isn't about being the loudest voice in the room or proving your toughness through intimidation. It's about being prepared, staying focused, and acting decisively when others need you most. Captain Richards, now Colonel Richards following his promotion, maintained regular contact with Marcus despite being assigned to a different command. Their professional relationship had evolved into a mutual respect based on shared understanding of what true military excellence looked like. Richards often consulted with Marcus on matters of training and personnel development. The changes at Windsor Castle extended far beyond the guard unit itself. The incident had sparked a comprehensive review of security protocols throughout the royal residences, leading to improved coordination between ceremonial units and active security services. Marcus's combination of ceremonial precision and tactical effectiveness had become a model for integrating these traditionally separate functions. International interest in Marcus's story had continued, though he maintained his preference for privacy and deflected most requests for interviews or public appearances. However, he had participated in several discreet exchanges with Allied military units, sharing training techniques and insights that could enhance their own capabilities. These interactions were conducted through official channels and focused on professional development rather than personal recognition. The technical analysis of Marcus's shot had become required reading at military academies across the Commonwealth. Ballistics experts continued to study the incident as an example of achieving seemingly impossible accuracy under extreme conditions. The shot was now used as a case study in courses on crisis decision-making and tactical response. Marcus's personal life had also evolved during this period. He had met Sarah Mitchell, a military historian working on a project about the evolution of ceremonial guard duties. Their relationship developed slowly and naturally, built on shared interests in military tradition and respect for service. Sarah was one of the few people outside his immediate military circle who understood both his capabilities and his preference for privacy. Their conversations often touched on the broader implications of his actions and how they had changed perceptions within military culture. Sarah helped Marcus understand the historical significance of his story, placing it within the context of how individual moments of excellence could influence institutional development and professional standards. The psychological impact of the incident had been thoroughly studied, not just regarding Marcus but also concerning his colleagues who had witnessed the event. Military psychologists noted the positive effects of having preconceptions challenged so dramatically, leading to more open-minded assessment of personnel capabilities and greater appreciation for diverse forms of excellence. Marcus's grandfather had visited Windsor Castle for the second anniversary commemoration, his first time seeing where his grandson served. The elderly veteran's quiet pride was evident as he observed Marcus conducting a training session, watching the same techniques he had taught during rabbit hunting expeditions now being used to prepare guards for protecting world leaders. "Never thought those old lessons would end up here," his grandfather commented quietly to Colonel Richards during a brief introduction. "But I suppose good training is good training, whether you're hunting rabbits or protecting queens." The simple wisdom in these words resonated with everyone who heard them. The recruitment process for the Queen's Guard had been modified based on lessons learned from Marcus's story. While physical fitness and traditional qualifications remained important, greater attention was now paid to identifying candidates with hidden talents and diverse backgrounds that might contribute to unit effectiveness. The goal was to avoid overlooking exceptional individuals who might not fit conventional profiles. Marcus had been offered numerous opportunities for advancement and specialized assignments, including positions with special forces units and international security organizations. Each offer was carefully considered but ultimately declined, as he remained committed to his role with the Queen's Guard and the ongoing development of its capabilities. The training programs he had developed were being implemented across multiple guard units, emphasizing the integration of ceremonial excellence with tactical readiness. His approach had proven effective in producing guards who could maintain perfect ceremonial standards while remaining alert to genuine security threats, achieving a balance that had previously been considered impossible. As Marcus approached his 5th year of service, he often reflected on the journey from being mocked and dismissed to becoming a respected leader and instructor. The transformation had taught him as much about human nature and institutional culture as it had about his own capabilities. He understood now that his grandfather's lessons about letting actions speak louder than words had prepared him not just for that crucial moment, but for a lifetime of quiet, effective service. The story of the young guard who had been ridiculed until his extraordinary marksmanship skills saved lives and changed perceptions had become part of the institutional memory at Windsor Castle. It served as a reminder that excellence can emerge from unexpected places, and that true strength often comes disguised as quiet dedication, rather than obvious displays of power or skill. Marcus Thompson continued his duties with the same humble professionalism that had characterized his service from the beginning, knowing that his actions had created lasting positive change, while remaining focused on the ongoing responsibilities of protecting those who served the crown and nation.